That was still a pretty big game, but whenever PlayStation came out, you could do more with the adventure games.
I mean, for this game to shine, you're talking about 2002 release. This is the same time as Elder Scrolls 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Star Wars Jedi Knights 2, Super Mario Sunshine, and it like still succeeded.
Yeah.
That's something, because those are big titles. Those are not
Sunshine was awesome.
Yeah, that's a really fun game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, it's so popular, it almost became one of the iconic games that you know PlayStation 2 as, almost like what Crash Bandicoot almost became.
Yeah.
It was so close to being the iconic, like, Mario, Nintendo, Halo, Microsoft.
I mean, that's really what they touted Crash as.
Yeah. And
Crash
it was gonna be. It was, and then something happened with Crash, and they crashed.
And nobody cared. And then Spyro came along.
You know.
He's cute.
He's a cute little dragon.
But I mean, honestly, that was just one of those games where the cell shading, the style of it, the different, like, how you have to hide, but also, you know, like, fight, and you have to use your different tools. It felt like a little bit of Prince of Persia meets a more kiddie game, you know, because you have that mechanic that you're hooking onto stuff and sliding and sweeping.
So you're not talking about, like, the original Prince of Persia on the computer?
No. The more populated one.
What I've seen, some of the most popular games, like you're talking about right there, were more kid related instead of like Siphon Filter, shit like that,
which was awesome.
Those were all great games,
Yeah.
but the more kid oriented, like Nintendo style kind of games, those are the ones that always took off.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Sly was that.
Yeah.
They were definitely, you know, at that time, especially, video games were really marketed to kids.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that didn't stop me ever.
No. And if you were smart as a publisher, I mean, why would you not? They're the money makers.
It's a hit and run.
But the next one on my list is Alice Madness Returns. So Alice Madness Returns, released in 2011. This is kind of like an interesting up and down hill of an adventure with the story, because there's the American McGee's Alice. That's the original game. They're the ones that kind of took that through the looking glass idea behind the Alice in Wonderland story and kind of made it this darker, more mentally unstable state. And it's really cool when they do that. This game is coming out once again with really big titles. Elder Scrolls 5, Dark Souls the original, Batman Arkham City, Portals 2, Battlefield 3, even Uncharted 3, Dead Space 2, Gears of War 3, all of these
Did you just
came
call
out.
Skyrim Elder Scrolls 5?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so cute.
Well, I mean, I was going to say Skyrim after, but I didn't say Morrowind, so I was like, yeah, screw it.
I used to call.
But I mean, 2011 was like reigning supreme when it came to good games. Like, those are huge titles.
Absolutely.
And this game did kind of get lost in the madness, no pun intended, with this and all that. But you're talking about Xbox 360, PS3, and it came out on PC, but I didn't even know about the PC until a long time later.
Most everything came out on PC anyway, though, right?
But think about this.
Generally,
game,
unless it was
games
like
like
one
that.
of their, flagship titles for that system.
Yeah.
But think about this. Like, this is 2011. The original American McGee's Alice came out in 2000.
Yeah, I own that one as well.
Right. That's an 11-year gap for a game.
And if you want to talk about gameplay difference, tons between the two.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The interaction is they're just so different.
They had
Even
11
though,
years to work
that,
on it.
That
No,
background, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the story was great. You know what I mean? But that first one was a slow burn.
But at the same, what year did this come out?
The game came out in 2011. The one I'm talking about, Madness Returns. The original was 2000.
So the original one in 2000 was about the same time that all of the scary horror games were coming out, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Resident Evil 2, I think that was a really big one.
Yeah.
Silent
Hill.
I would not, like, I would say horror, but nothing like those games.
Yeah.
It's more of the, like, graphic violence to its true meaning.
They were using it as an
kind
art
of twisted
form.
as well.
Twisted
Yeah.
mentally. I mean, the whole premise of it is 1875, right? So Alice is a normal girl. Wonderland doesn't exist. And she watches her family burn alive until they're dead. Who would have thought? And so
They die?
yeah.
They
Somebody's
burn
going to
dead.
die?
But I mean,
So people's going to die?
and I'm serious, man. Like, this would be traumatizing to anybody. So what you're seeing is this kid who is having an awful mental reaction to what she is having to witness. And then as she's going through this and as she's going through therapy to like deal with the loss of her family, she is actually so off kilter from what her normal self is that she actually has to separate herself herself into a wonderland. So she creates Alice's Wonderland to escape from reality. So she's doing this. She's going through the orphanage and all this kind of stuff. She goes to like a home for kids without families afterwards, which is pretty much an adult orphanage. But she's like 19 now when you're talking about The Madness Returns. So at 19, she's still going to this doctor trying to get advice on what's going on and all this other stuff. And she's slipping back into Wonderland when she thought she already had a wrap on this and she set it aside. Like the first movie's already done kind of thing. But not in the same setting, of course. She's going through this mental break where she's kind of slipping back to Wonderland, but Wonderland's fully corrupt. It's going awful and everything's falling apart.
But everything's technically in her head anyway, right?
Right.
So it's kind of slipping at the same time she's slipping into the world, right?
So her therapist
cranberries.
So her therapist actually uses hypnotized therapy, right? So she's getting hypnotized to try and forget these memories and like to try and get rid of.
But she's
Wonderland.
slipping more into it,
right? The game kind of progresses, and one of the cool parts about it is you find out this doctor that is supposed to be this great therapist actually had a hand in the family dying, and he's trying to actually remove a lot of her memories of this event by making like Wonderland disappear. That's why it's corrupting, and her own brain's trying to save it. So honestly, if you like taking drugs, this movie or this game is great.
Imagine playing a video game on acid about an acid trip.
And I would honestly say that because of how dark they take this. Like you're talking about unbelievably brutal things, and it feels like you're almost going on an acid trip when you're playing it because every level is designed so differently, and it's just a really, really unique take, and it has a lot of secrets and hidings, and like if you go off the beaten path, you're probably going to find something.
Because art in video games kind of went from that very simple style art, very easy. But the thing that I've seen on this one so far, what you showed me, the art in it looks really fucking cool. Like people were putting a lot of really cool fucking shit in games at that point.
Totally abstract of the norm. Like take away anything normal and you'll find like creatures, like kind of like when you want to dive into the Star Wars universe and you want to see those creatures that...
What I was going to say is the art and the direction of the characters. If you've ever played Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, I would have to agree because when I saw this game, I had that feeling of Dante's Inferno where you have the weapons and that really off-kilter like feel to the game, but it also had a lightness to it, a little bit of like Psychonauts, which is actually a really good introduction to my last game, which is Psychonauts. That is by far the one that had the biggest impact on me. It was just one for visually and graphically how they handled this game. Tim Schafer is my hero. He's one of the huge directors and writers for a lot of Double Fine games. And he's done amazing work, and I've loved everything he's done. He is behind Brutal Legends, like all these other games, honestly, a lot of really, really good ones.
Didn't the Brutal Legends guys make the Tenacious D game too?
I don't know if there's a Tenacious D game.
I thought there was.
There is.
Yeah. I didn't know about that.
I played it for like an hour or something.
Maybe I'm fucking
it's just
wrong.
Insane. No, it is.
Is it a Brutal Legends one?
I think you are correct.
I remember seeing the trailers for it.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% on that. Yeah. I think I played that game for like an hour, maybe two. It's one of those games, where it's just like get after it.
Yeah.
So
I want to say one of the coolest things with Psychonauts is it was actually picked up by Microsoft. There's this guy that worked at Microsoft, and he's like, you know what, Tim Schafer, I really believe in your Double Fine product. And double fine product. And honestly, they were going to make it. They went through a lot of the stages and most of it, honestly, where they were making this. They made most of the game, and then this guy that was really supporting it in Microsoft got let go or fired or left, one of the things. And when they did that, Microsoft was like, we're going to drop you. So this other company, Majesco, comes out of the blue and is like, hey, guess what? We want to help you make this the rest of the way through, and I think this is going to be a really big hit. What Majesco didn't know at that time is it was going to be a really big hit. What they really didn't know is that it was not going to be a hit right away. And so it was actually a flop. Huh? It was only like 100,000 copies sold. Not very many for 2005 when it came out.
2005. I was going to ask you when it came out. Yeah.
I think they buried more copies of Atari's ET than that.
Yeah, honestly, they probably did. But either way, 100,000 is nothing for an actual like video game of any sorts, especially like a big release. So it actually ended up putting Majesco under. They actually had to shut down that whole game in production because of Mostly, but partly because of the
they put
failing.
everything into that game.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then somehow 2015 they almost re-brought it back to life to the point where it was getting popular. They finally are like, oh, we're going to make a second one because it's actually getting some traction. So
Nice.
this year, 2019, Psychonauts 2 is coming out. I'm ecstatic. I'm really excited about it. It's like, it was a failure. It was like a cult classic that had a huge cult following.
What do you do in the game?
So one thing I really like about this game is Tim Schafer. He wrote this and it's hilarious. He wrote this game about this following the life of this guy named Raz. He's a little kid who pretty much sneaks into this place that teaches you to be a psychonaut. And a psychonaut is a ninja assassin of the psycho realm, you could say. So what this means is you can enter people's thoughts in their heads.
Like a psychic spy.
And it actually is represented by a door that you open and then you can enter it, but you have to be trained or else you could be overcome by it. So one of the cool things about this game, one of the cool things about this game is like you start realizing that a bunch of the little cadets, some of their brains are going missing. So somebody's stealing the brains. But the really cool part about this game is there's endless possibilities because you can do different art styles no matter what it is. So every single person's head is a different type of person. You can have the big military guy, the science guy, the guy that, or the girl that's super artsy fartsy, whatever it is. And you go into these worlds and it's a totally different environment. Every single boss is a different type of boss. So you don't fight anything that feels mechanic or like repeated.
Yeah.
Everything is fresh. So sometimes you're playing like what feels like a board game where you can see the real actual map in front of you and like actually fighting out in front of you. Then other ones you're like huge compared to the other people and they're terrified of you. And it has all of these amazing moments where you're fighting Napoleon and his complex. So you're really big and he's trying to, you know, all this other stuff. Or you can go to the military guy's head where there's bombs and bunkers and you gotta hide and you gotta like do all this. It's a game that has so much to give and it just never really got it like huge.
That's why, because it was like ahead of its time.
It was way ahead of its time.
Yeah. Ooh,
oh, I see what you guys did there with the funnies.
It was ahead.
You know, it was just most all of the actual missions were based in people's heads and consciousness. If it was the bad guy, if it was the good guy, or whoever you were trying to do. One of the really cool things that you could do that was really cool for the story development of this was you got to experience an understanding of the character that you see on the outside way better. Because there's some things that are locked away. Like you can find areas that are like keep out, like they've stowed these memories away, and you can unlock it and like listen to this little mini tale. And it makes you just really understand that character a lot better, or why they are the way they are, or why they have that weird tick, or why do they say that, or why are they so mundane, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And it lets you know like, oh, he went through hell and back. And they just blocked it out, and now he's just kind of like a moderate guy, you know. There's like that kind of thing where it just has endless possibilities, but by far my favorite video game of all time. It made my mind go to places that were very, very creative, and it just took me out of like a normal video game that I was used to. It just really took me out of my normal realm, and I liked it.
That's pretty cool.
I liked it, yeah.
That sounds like, I don't know, I really can't, again, I haven't played a lot of video games, so I can't, I don't have a lot of reference for it, but that really does sound like it was fucking really cool.
Oh, one of my, seriously, one of those games where I just can't not play it. It's great.
Right. How many times do you think you beat it?
I want to say when it first came out, and I was one of the few that discovered it, probably like 4 times.
Wow.
Since then, I got it on PC and I keep playing it, but I just play it in like spurts. I don't really ever play it all the way through anymore. It's almost nostalgic now.
Yeah. You go back and you're like, oh, I like this level, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the graphics are like Xbox, not Xbox 360, like PS1, you know.
Yeah, they're still kind of rough, huh?
Yeah, the PS2 is like equivalent of the graphics, but I still love the art style. The art style is one of the things that really got me again. The theme is I really like art styles.
Yeah, no, that for real. That's what I was about to say. Right. I mean, it sounds like whenever you were really getting into video games even more, it seems like the art style was really pushing the boundary on that part of it, making it seem more real and more personal.
It made it stand out to me. Yeah. It made it go, ooh, this is different.
Because how many millions of games were all in and all pretty much about the same? There's a shitload of games out there that all pretty much match.
Oh yeah,
you know, you're just doing a different. Yeah, that you're just doing a different level.
Right.
It's like Batman and the Wolverine game, the exact same game.
Yeah, exactly. So Dan, what do you have for your video game?
So actually, I got a couple honorable mentions before I like really hit this one game. Kind of go into your Nintendo, like Brock. You know, your Zelda.
Yeah.
I had 2 Nintendo games that were my Zelda. One was the original Final Fantasy. When that came out, like my friends and I all got it the same weekend, and we had like a contest to see who could beat it the quickest. It was me. 9 hours.
God damn. See, I never could get into the RPGs.
But you talked about like how it was like Zelda's a coming of age game.
Yeah.
This game, you actually go to an island and grow up and become kind of different characters.
Yeah.
So that was a great game. The other one was Dragon Warrior, which was a little bit earlier, a couple years earlier.
I remember Dragon Warrior, but I didn't really get to play it that much.
That was probably one of those games I played a lot. Like I even played it way later just because I loved it.
Right.
But I'm not going to get too far into those. It's just some honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Another one's Hogs of War for the PlayStation 1. It was like a turn-based military strategy game, but all your characters are pigs, anthropomorphic pigs. You couldn't cross water.